Thank you for having us here today. I'm quite taken by the bits I've seen. I've spent a lot of time at Delaware County Community College. That's right central to my district. I was just at an event yesterday on green energy there several days ago. But this is what I want to speak about today. This is really key to the future, green energy. And I'm going to have Brent speak here in just a few moments. And the reason I'm going to is that this is the epitome of what we want to do. And the community college and what you're out and about doing of trying to give us a skilled workforce is exactly what needs to be done. I'm concerned about it both from the nationwide perspective, but in particular in Pennsylvania. Between 1998 and 2007, prior to the recession, Pennsylvania actually lost 6.5% of all its green energy jobs. Lost them. We should be on the forefront of this with our manufacturing prowess. We should be able to take those skills from the steelworking industry and other manufacturers, just transfer them on over. You can see that in Bucks County. They actually are building a wonderful field up there of solar power, but they're building it on a steelworkers mill. As a matter of fact, the steelworkers union are the workers who actually do it. They're unionized there. But my issue is that as you look at some of these emerging technologies, take solar power. Of 60% of all the solar power projects that are being done are in California. But you look at this side of the United States, 20% are being done in New Jersey. Very few, relatively, are being done in Pennsylvania. We can't beat New Jersey. This is Pennsylvania. We've got 83 community colleges and four-year colleges just in the Philadelphia region alone pouring out wonderful ideas. But here's the second aspect of it. Pennsylvania is the third highest emitter of greenhouse gases in the United States of America. We're polluting our nation, never mind contributing to it with not enough green energy jobs. And the reason I want to speak today is if you go back and watch between 2002 and 2008, because this is a federal responsibility, we actually incentivized to the tune of $73 billion tax incentives, tax cuts, tax breaks for fossil-fueled industries. On the other hand, we only did approximately about $29 billion for renewable energy, of which half was for corn ethanol. Now, I'm not opposed to corn ethanol, but if anybody's done the assessment of it, you can see you don't get the bang for the buck. Matter of fact, you don't get that much bang if that's what it's for. So a number of years back, 2.5 to be precise, I trundled up to meet Brent, who was working for Iberdrola, a wonderful company, Spanish-owned, largest renewable energy company in the world that had settled in to Wayne into my district and placed its headquarters. Why? Because it had a businessman who had come back here in 1999, and within a few weeks after establishing, I think, 120 kilowatts or something of energy, sold it out, that energy, and was immediately doing more. There was a thirst for this type of effort. But because our federal government has incentives that are going to fossil fuel, which we want to wean ourselves away from, particularly since 67% of all our fossil fuel comes from overseas, oil comes from overseas. It's a national security dependency issue. We should be changing that balance dramatically. At the moment when I went up to see him, and I said, what occurred that you took your company and associated and kind of aligned it within Iberdrola? The fact of the matter was that we in this nation, as far as turning us towards this key new energy sector, job creation sector, don't have a long-range planning horizon. We talked at the time about production tax credits and investment tax credits. The fact of the matter is, when I met with him, they were going to run out this year. One of them was going to run out next year, I think. Short window. What businessman or woman is going to invest in it? So Spain, which owns Iberdrola, now they kind of do it a little differently. They kind of buy the stuff at the end at a certain price, but they know that they're going to be buying this energy, and so therefore there's an incentive to invest in it. In the economic stimulus bill, we were successful, and this is an issue that I have, ever since I met him, I have been on, of how can we extend the planning horizon for PTCs and ITCs. The short of the matter is that in wind is treated a little different than solar power. When they build those windmills, they actually then sell for about 2.5 cents, or they sell for a certain amount of money, kilowatts per hours, and to people. What they also do is get people to invest in them, and they get a tax credit on this. It's sort of like lending the money for the next project, but they get maybe 2.5 cents tax credit or something per kilowatt hour on it. The problem is, in this last year, nobody was lending money for anything. So we in the government finally interceded, extended this production tax credit and investment tax credit 3 years, which is far from sufficient. I'm intent on doing the following. I'm intent on, first of all, pointing him out as a prime example of what can happen when government incentivizes things correctly in a longer range plan. Because he's now left that company, he has his own again, which was part of kind of it. He can explain all that better than I can. And now he's out and about having an American company create the jobs, and hopefully soon we're going to be manufacturing stuff that we're exporting to Spain and other countries saying made in Pennsylvania. I would love to see, and I believe in my discussions with him, that establishing a renewable energy standard that at least I believe by 2020, at least by 2025, all electricity that is being produced has to be a renewable energy standard. The reason 60% of all the solar power projects are in California is they're mandating by 2025 a renewable energy standard of 30% of all electricity. I think it's 2025, might be 2020. So there's this incentive in the business world to say, boy, if that's it, I need to start investing in that type of project because that's the only type that's going to meet this requirement. So we have to get a better renewable energy standard, which is why the cap and trade bill is so critical. We've got to get the cap and trade bill out there because A, it weans us off foreign oil, it helps clean up our environment, and it creates the kind of jobs that we need in the future. Just before I turn it over, because I'm pretty passionate about this issue, is remember this. In the past decade, 40% of all our jobs that were created, of all job growth, came out of the housing industry. It's not going to come out, 40% of all our jobs in the next years from the housing industry. We have got to have other sectors lead us not only out of this recession, but into the future. If we were to have a renewable energy standard by 2025 of 25%, we can create 5 million jobs here in Pennsylvania, and high-value jobs. To you, the community college, I'm a co-sponsor and large supporter, and sitting in my bill of the Community College Energy Training Act, because the other half of this is the skilled workforce. I hear it all the time. Go down to Acker Shipyard. They're importing from outside of Pennsylvania 182 welders as I speak. Why? Do you do welding here? Well, they do welding at community college and Delaware County Community College. And the welders of today aren't like when I had them in the Navy in the early 70s. You flip your helmet, you light the arc, you lay the bead. You need a higher level of college of math and science to sit at a computer, lay out the bead on a computer in order to do the fine, high-value welding of today. We in Pennsylvania are at a dearth of skilled workforce. That's why STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, is so vital in welding. Because we can't even get the skilled welders. And how are we going to get the fabricators for the future to build the turbines? The fine edges that have to be done on these windmills and all. So every $1 million invested in green energy creates about 16.5 jobs. But if you invest that $1 million in fossil fuel, you get about 5 jobs. This is truly simple 101 economics. And I'm out and about and I'm a large proponent of this. And with that, I'm going to bring over the epitome of what I think is how government can incentivize the correct way and then let the markets and the schools produce the skilled workforce and the entrepreneurship, which should be the norm, not the exception. Brent? Thank you.
Just briefly, Congressman, I appreciate the invitation, especially here at the community college, because we are in the same industry in one sense, and that is building a future with jobs not just overseas, but jobs here in the Philadelphia area. So we saw that with wind when we introduced it in the early part of this decade, that it was a new industry with lots of potential in the U.S. and in Pennsylvania. And what you see in renewable energy, you probably see in other industries, Congressman, and that is we, in one sense, are the inventors of wind and solar in the U.S. We perfected that technology first, particularly solar. We do this, it seems, over and over, right? And then we somehow miss deploying it. and others around the world take advantage of the innovation and the technology in the U.S. and somehow leapfrog us on basic business deployment and jobs. And we see that in renewable energy particularly because as we grew and looked for more and more capital to build more and more wind and solar, solar's about 7 to 8 years behind where wind is, I would say. Wind is now investing billions of dollars in Pennsylvania in the U.S., as is solar. When we looked for those dollars, we didn't find the banks in the U.S. and we didn't find the partners in the U.S. We found them in Europe. And all that's good, as the congressman said. But it's now time for the industry to go further and for Pennsylvania to create a home industry and the jobs that go with it. We're going to need leadership. We can't have the on and off again policies we've had in energy policy in the U.S. for us to build the industry. So that, in a nutshell, is why we appreciate the kind of leadership. Maybe he gets it from leading in the military, where you've got to hit that objective and you've got to look ahead and you can't be going left and right, I imagine.
That's right.
And so with us in business, we can't have on again, off again policy if we're going to bring billions of dollars of banking and capital and jobs in industry. So for that reason, I'm happy to accept the invitation to support and explain what Joe has done very well in Congress, which is lead the U.S. on renewable energy, not follow and see the technology exported. That's why we appreciate your leadership.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks for that. Waverly?
I would just like to say thank you for coming out on behalf of Dr. Curtis, our president, and that Community College of Philadelphia is committed to providing education and training to help the Philadelphia workforce in the area of green economy job training.
I'm very grateful for this. This is going to be like any other battle I've ever known. It's just grinding away at it every day with the right strategy. And the right strategy is investing in our youth for the skilled workforce and giving the right incentives to the business community with access to capital on the long term, in the long term. And those two together will give us what we need, which is an economy that can be all it can be. We created 1 million jobs total in this economy, net, in the last 8 years. Previous 8 years, it was 23 million. It's not creating just another 23 million jobs, though. It's creating the right ones, that they have the quality of life that they want to have and pass on to their children. Thank you very much, Waverly. I appreciate being here. Brent, thank you.